All right, guys, welcome back to Brian's Knives. We've been looking at backpacking stoves or emergency stoves, and I want to look at the alcohol stove today. And I know this kind of stove was pretty popular around 10, maybe 15 years ago. And seems like maybe it's not quite as common as it once was, but it's still a great stove. And I just want to talk a little bit about it today and give you some thoughts about what are some of the pros and what are some of the cons of an alcohol stove. Because the reality is, no matter what stove we get, they're not perfect, right? Okay, so an alcohol stove has no moving parts. That's a pretty big deal. They're very reliable. They're pretty sturdy unless, you run over it with your truck or step on it or lose it maybe. But there's just not a lot to go wrong with an alcohol stove, which is really nice. Another good feature is they use alcohol. Denatured alcohol is very common to use in the stove. And you could find that just about anywhere, unless you live in one of those communist states that won't let you have anything good. But denatured alcohol, fuel line antifreeze like heat is another good one. So no problem on finding fuel. They're super lightweight. That stove weighs 2.75 ounces. So in other words, you don't even know hardly that you're packing the stove with you. So really nice that they don't weigh a lot. They don't take up a lot of space. This one's probably one of the larger alcohol stoves that you might see, but they're all pretty small. The other great thing is they're inexpensive. They don't cost a lot. Heck, you can even make one out of a cat food can if you want, or a tuna fish can. People have done that. And have used those stoves, and might be a great project to have with one of your kids or grandkids to make your own alcohol stove. They're also really quiet. You can barely hear any noise at all. Maybe a little bubbling of the alcohol as it burns there, but they're pretty quiet. And I really appreciate that a lot. Especially if I'm out in the woods. I don't want to hear a bunch of noise from a stove if I can help it. I'd rather hear the birds and nature and whatever else might be going on there in the woods. And so it's kind of a big deal to me that they're quiet. Well, they do have some shortfalls, so let's talk about those quickly. These are going to make sense, I hope, to you. Just a few of the cons of using an alcohol stove, and one of those is going to be related to. I got to look at my notes. I thought we would have our cue by now. Okay, here we go. Coming up. All right, potential fire hazard. Yeah, that makes sense, right? You literally have burning liquid fuel in the alcohol stove, which isn't a problem as long as you don't knock it over. And because people have been careless with those stoves in the past, they're actually banned in some parts of the country. And so in some places, you just can't use an alcohol stove, which makes sense. But you are dealing with a flammable liquid here, and so you got to treat it with the respect that it deserves. The other thing with it, just like the Esbit stove we looked at, you just don't really have a lot of control over the flame. This one does have like an adjustable damper on it, so you do get some control. But if you're really looking to simmer food, you're probably going to have to get a canister stove for that. These just aren't going to work great overall, for simmering food. So just something to be aware of there as one of the cons. Some people will say they're slow. And I guess that's all perspective. Usually when I'm out in the woods or whatever, I'm not worried about taking a few minutes to boil water or to heat something up. So if you're looking for the fastest way to heat up water or to heat up a meal, the alcohol stove isn't going to be at the very top of your list. Probably you're going to be looking at a canister stove again to be able to get that done. So yeah, not the fastest stove around, but again, that's not everybody's concern. So it all kind of depends on what you're looking to do, what you're looking to get out of the stove, things like that. So yeah, they're not going to be super duper fast, but as we mentioned, they do have a lot of pros as well. So you just have to balance that out and figure out what is going to work best for you. But I think these stoves do deserve a good look at, especially for a backup stove maybe. Maybe you have a canister stove and your go bag, but you want something to have a backup source for heating water. These stoves can fit that bill pretty well. Carrying fuel is no problem at all. You can put it in pretty much any plastic bottle. So that makes it pretty easy. And we've already talked about how that, it's pretty easy to find fuel for these in most places in the world. So something else to consider there. And, the people that really like alcohol stoves tend to really like them. And sometimes that's because they've made them with their own hands or whatever. But they've been around a long time, and, who knows how many pots of water, cups of water that they have boiled, and food that they've heated up or prepared. So a lot you can do with a good alcohol stove. And that's not to mention, depending on the design of the stove, lots of times you're able to stick some sticks and dry leaves and whatever you can find, some bark in those, and still use them even without having the alcohol. So you have the possibility, at least, of having like two fuel sources there. So again, that's another positive when you're thinking about these alcohol stoves. All right, guys. Well, I think we're kind of winding it down here. I don't want to bore you to death with these, but I hope these videos are helpful to you as we look at some of these different stove types. And it just pays to be prepared, right? We don't know what we're going to face in the world that we live in. What if there would be an EMP attack where no electronics worked? Then how would you be able to take care of your cooking needs? What if you ran out of propane? What other choices are you going to have to be able to do things like boil water and purify water? So a stove like this can come in handy for that. All right, well, guys, take care. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you.